We've all been through a challenging 14 months with a pandemic that was difficult to navigate, stay home and mask orders, business closures and cancellations. But we are seeing light at the end of that tunnel and beginning to cautiously move forward to life as we once knew it. I'm Mary Ann Taylor, Executive Director of the Summersville Arena and Conference Center, and I have Tony Miller and Cody Womack, who are park rangers at Summersville Lake. And as we prepare for the beginning of the height of the season, Summersville Lake will see hundreds of thousands of visitors, which is an economic drive for our restaurants, our hotels, our campgrounds, and so many more businesses. So welcome to Cody and Tony.
Thank you, it's nice to be here.
So I'd like to begin today with some basic questions about the mission and the responsibilities of the Corps of Engineers. So let's start first with, how does Summersville Lake tie in with the Corps mission, and what are the responsibilities of the employees at the lake?
Summersville Lake ties in with the Corps mission by, first and foremost, we do flood risk reduction. We try to prevent as much flooding as we can downriver. And then kind of to tie in with the secondary missions of recreation, we try to improve the recreation areas around the lake. We try to ensure that our recreation users are being safe and that the property is being used in the manner with which it's supposed to be used. And then we also try to boost the local economy, and we do that through special releases through whitewater season. So we allow our partners to come down and also individuals to use the Gauley River in order to be able to try to get rafters into the local area. We also provide world-renowned rock climbing, so that brings a lot of people from around the United States and even around the world to Summersville Lake, which helps the local economy, as you mentioned previously.
Now, when you talk about flood prevention, what areas is the flood prevention? There are certain counties that the dam is preventing the flood?
So just anywhere that's downstream from the Gauley River is really what we're trying to mitigate. We also end up flowing up into Charleston, which we help flood risk management as well. And we do that not only from our dam, but also from the other dams located in the area. We have Burnsville, Sutton, Bluestone, and we also have R.D. Bailey, and then Summersville Lake. So with all of us kind of working together in different areas is where we're trying to overall reduce flood risk.
What are your duties? Like, we're getting ready for the season to start, so what are your duties during the season, and what are your duties when you're off season?
So during the season, well, number one, we keep an eye on the water level in the dam. Flood risk management is our number one duty. But as you know, during the summer is peak recreation season, and that's when things get really busy, and that's when we earn our money. We have a campground, Battle Run campground, that stays almost full all year round, and so we manage it. We have another campground that we manage, or it's on leased land, but we don't manage it, and that's at Mountain Lake Campground. We collect fees, we remit fees for day use. We sell annual passes. We keep trails clear during the season so that users are able to go out and enjoy the trails. We also boat patrol the lake. We have a shift that's dedicated just for it. We get on the boat, we're out on the water all day. We make sure that the visitors are safe. We assist them as needed. We also look for cliff jumpers, which is a pretty big problem here at Summersville due to the 80-foot cliffs that surround the whole lake.
Talking about that, I mean, the rule is you don't want them to jump off the cliffs.
No, yeah,
right?
Yes, ma'am. We do. We have a rule in place
Right.
where you are not supposed to enter the water from a height greater than 6 feet. And so, with climbing being such a popular sport here at Summersville Lake, it poses an interesting problem because they like to climb out of the water and fall into the lake. And it used to be thought that if they fell into the lake, that that wasn't jumping or cliff diving. Well, it's entering the water from a height greater than 6 feet. And so
Sounds dangerous to me.
it's very dangerous. We have had fatalities in the past, and so that's one of our number one goals is to reduce fatalities to zero if possible, but to assist the visitors and to educate water safety as much as possible.
Okay. So how much land does the Summersville unit of the Corps manage?
We have just under 10,000 acres here at Summersville Lake. We don't manage all of it. Some of that we have outgranted with partners, the West Virginia DNR being the main one. They have wildlife management areas. They use those to timber. They use them to enhance the natural resources. They put food plots in for fishing and game. And we also have a campground that's leased at Mountain Lake Campground, so that's on Corps land, but they manage it. We have a marina. We have a private airport as well. And all of these things are things that are on Corps land that we don't necessarily manage day-to-day operations, but we do oversee the big picture of it. So.
So let's move on to Summersville Dam. And had the weather been better today, we would actually be overlooking Summersville Dam right now, which is definitely worth a stop to visit that overlook. And directly across the road from the Summersville Dam overlook, obviously, is a lake overlook, which is absolutely gorgeous too. So definitely want to make some time to see those overlooks. But so let's go back to the dam and share just some basic information about the dam.
Well, Summersville Dam is a rock-filled dam. It's the second largest east of the Mississippi. It stands at 390 feet tall. It's over 2,000 feet long. At the top of the dam, it's 40 feet wide, and at the base, it's 1,400 feet wide. And it's pretty amazing to see once you're up close and personal.
We've kind of talked a little bit about the purpose of the dam being flood prevention. Is there more that you might want to add to that about the?
I can, and so a summer pool, we're usually at 1652 elevation, that's 1,652 in the summertime. In the wintertime, we drop it 75 feet. And that's our winter pool elevation. And the main reason we do that is to make room to catch big rains in early spring or in summertime. This year was a good example of that. A couple months ago, we got a major rain event that filled the whole lake up in 2 or 3 days. And we were able to catch that, and we mitigated all that flooding downstream of the dam. And so there were no damages. We just slowly took the lake back down to winter pool, and then we were able to catch more rain after that.
So, with flood prevention, is it millions of dollars, billions of dollars? What has this dam, in the amount of dollars, approximately done?
It's estimated easily in the billions of dollars of money saved in flood risk management. So.
I would imagine that just in 2016 we experienced, a very devastating flood, and Summersville Dam played such an important role that year in flood prevention. I also want to mention, talking about the dam, that in 2001, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but in 2001, an 80 megawatt hydropower plant was added to the area below the dam, and this power plant has been a huge benefit, to the community.
Yes, that is correct.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. We've talked about your jobs and a little bit about the dam. So let's switch gears a little bit now and talk about recreation, beginning with wildlife management.
Okay, so I'll field that question. So when it comes to wildlife management, as Cody mentioned earlier, we work with the West Virginia DNR. They have areas that are wildlife management areas, which allows for, like he said, hunting, trail users, and stuff like that. And they really do a lot of the groundwork on that, which assists us tremendously. They check for hunters, they check to make sure that they have all their license, they set out food plots and everything like that, and they also work on the lake. Something that they do and they have a special interest in is their fishery biologist focuses on the walleye population in the lake. So the lake is known to be, more of a walleye and smallmouth bass fishing lake, and so it's really important to them to maintain those species and to make sure the population's up. And so something that they did to help that was that the perch that they feed on actually need to, whenever they lay their eggs, they lay them in a ribbon fashion. And with the rock walls being so jagged, there's really no way for them to properly place their eggs. So they put in fish attractants a couple years ago when we drew the lake lower, and with that it allowed the perch to be able to lay their eggs successfully. And now the perch population is now higher, which has resulted in bigger walleye. They're growing faster, and so that's something really awesome that they've definitely provided to the lake.
Well, I know there's a lot of tournaments, or not a lot, but I mean several tournaments that come in for fishing on the lake. So
Yeah, that is correct, and that's something that we also work directly with the DNR. We try to make sure to schedule those tournaments within conjunction of outside of main recreation time. So normally they're early in the mornings or late at night. We make sure that all the areas are taken care of. The natural resource police are actually out there a lot of times making sure that those fishermen are following the regulations, making sure they have their license, making sure they're not breaking wake and no wake zones and stuff like that. So they're also a massive help to us when it comes to that.
Okay, so if you're a fisherman, what are the chances that you might catch the walleye then? Good chance?
Yeah, chances are pretty good, especially walleye are more in the winter season. So when it gets a little bit colder, and then when the lake transitions into now, early fall, late spring is a really good time to catch some smallmouth bass.
Okay.
So,
And so when they catch them, I mean, it's not a catch and release thing. Is it a catch and you get to take it home with you?
correct,
then?
yeah,
Okay.
and there's certain state regulations on limits, and that's another thing that the DNR and the natural resource police are out there to make sure that people aren't overcatching their limits, so that way we can maintain a correct population in the lake.
Okay.
So that way everybody has equal opportunity to fish.
Great, that sounds wonderful. Obviously, when we talk about recreation, we certainly want to talk about Summersville Lake, which is the largest lake in the state of West Virginia. So we're very fortunate to have that lake here in our community. So I want to just field a few questions about Summersville Lake. And one is, what is the water like here at the lake?
So I would say that the water quality here is exceptional. Cody, what did you say that it's a good nickname for Summersville Lake?
They call it the Little Bahamas of the East.
That's
the water clarity is so good here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been people from out of state, like I said, all over the United States. They visit this lake, and I hear all summer about, wow, your lake is so clear. How do you keep it this clear? And I just tell them, between the efforts of the DNR and us, and also people making sure that whatever they bring in, they take back out with them. Just everybody really respecting the lake. And I mean, on a good day, which is most summer days, you can see 10 to 15 feet down in clarity in certain areas, which is something you just don't see around here. So we take a lot of pride in the cleanliness of our lake.
Well, and also we get a lot of scuba divers because of the clarity of the water. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep, and that's something that our marina offers. Is actually they offer diving opportunities and stuff where you can go down and actually see the town of Gad and everything like that. So it's definitely something unique that this lake provides and offers.
And I have to ask too, and I'm not sure if you know the answer, but are there still 3 sunken boats in the lake?
So as of right now, there is still 2 sunken boats.
2.
So there's one that is over by the winter ramp, over at the picnic area, and then there's also one over in between Dike 1 and Dike 2 that the scuba divers use.
Okay. What happened to the 3rd one, do you know?
They ended up taking it out,
Okay.
is what happened, just because they still have to, even though it's a sunken boat, they still have to maintain it and make sure that it doesn't just kind of fall into the lake, fall apart in the lake.
Okay. Interesting. So we sort of touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to ask this question again. And interestingly enough, last week I did a trivia contest on the Arena and Conference Center's Facebook page. Many thanks to Toby Wood, who helped me with some of those trivia questions in regards to the dam and the lake. This next question, you need to pay real good attention to this, because if I do another trivia question, this might be one. So you want to pay attention to this answer so you can get it right. What is the lake elevation in the summer and at winter pool?
Well, at Summer Pool, it's 1,652 feet above sea level. And for Winter Pool, it'd be 77 feet below that, which is 1,575 feet above sea level.
So write those down for that next trivia contest there. Well, let's move on to some activities on Summersville Lake, which there are many. So obviously we will not talk about all of those, but let's just talk a little bit about some of the more popular ones, which are like boating, kayaking. Stand-up paddleboarding has become such a huge sport right now, and the beach area that you all manage. Is there anything that you might tell us about any of those activities on the lake?
You definitely mentioned it, and that's with kayaking and stand-up paddleboarding. The last couple of years, we've seen a tremendous increase in its use. We have 6 boat launches. Each of them stay busy during the summer months. During the winter months, there's only 2 of them that are available, and that'd be the winter launch ramp and also at Salmon Run.
Okay. So, you know, boating, I mean, you see all kinds of various sizes of boats out on the lake. Just houseboats, I guess fishing boats. I'm not a boater, so I'm not going to know this very well, but fishing boats, houseboats, speed boats, I guess.
Yep, that's correct.
So just all kinds of different boats, and of course kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding. When do you think is the best time, like for a kayaker or a stand-up paddleboarder? Just is it any time during the day? Or?
So I think it really depends on what your focus is. I think if you're going out to the main body of the lake where it's not a no wake zone and everybody can just go as fast as they want, I would say sometime during the week, probably Monday through Thursday. Anytime during the day, really, that's kind of when we're a little bit slower during the summer. If you're feeling adventurous, you can go out during the weekend, but you're definitely going to feel the wake. You're going to be out there, and we're trying to make sure that the cross users between paddleboarders and kayakers and boaters recognize each other, know that they're both out there, be really safe. Some of the concerns that have been brought up is, you know, paddleboarders are kind of starting to stay later and later in the evenings, and boaters have a hard time seeing them. And they're out in those areas that are full wake, so the boaters can go as fast as they want. So that's definitely something to consider if you're a paddleboarder or a kayaker, is, you know, those boats are out there and they can't necessarily stop on a dime. So try to stick to the no wakes when you can. A great area to do that would be the Battle Run area. We actually have a kayak launch ramp area over there specifically for kayakers. And then we're also putting in a new one over at Salmon Run in between the current boat ramp and the handicap fishing pier. So that'll be another good area because it's also a no wake zone.
Well, good. I mean, you're staying up with all of that, knowing that kayaking and stand-up paddleboarding is so popular. So
Yes.
you're, you know, making things easier for people with those 2 sports. What about the beach area? Very popular area.
Yeah, the beach area is very popular, and actually last year we ended up having to close down the Battle Run recreation area due to overcapacity. We're not sure if that's just because we're gaining that much popularity or if everybody was just trying to get outside due to COVID-19. But we're hoping to try to let everybody know, you know, it may happen again this year. So don't be surprised if you show up around noon, 1 o'clock, and there's somebody out there directing you that you need to go to somewhere else on the lake, just because we're just so not overly used, but we're just so well used, and the recreators love coming here. And so the beach is definitely a forefront in that, is everybody wants to come out, enjoy the sun, and just have a good time. So
Well, yeah, definitely an advantage to the lake to have a beach area with that, so that people can come and enjoy it, lay on the beach, get in the water, How cold is that water though?
Right now, it's pretty cold. I wouldn't recommend it. There's been a couple people that have tested the water so far this year. I've seen them, but they've been younger children, so
They don't feel it.
Yes, a little bit more braver than I.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we'll start really picking up. The beach officially opens, and the restroom will open there on the 27th of this month of May. So that's when we'll really start seeing the crowds really start coming out. So.
All right, now we talked a little bit earlier about some boat launches, so let's go back to that and talk about where these boat launches, how many there are and where the boat launches are located.
Okay, so as Cody mentioned earlier, we have a total of 6.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them are located at Battle Run. We have the Battle Run long ramp and the Battle Run short ramp. And then one of them is the winter ramp that we use, and it's located at the roadside park across from the lake office. And so as we're dropping to winter pool, we'll open up that gate, and boaters will be able to use that once the long ramps and the short ramp can no longer be used. And we'll use that throughout the entire winter, and then as the lake is coming up to summer pool. And then the other 2 can be located at Salmon Run. One of them is, like he stated earlier, it's a winter ramp, and it's used as the water's going down and coming back up, just like the one at Roadside Park. And then once the water comes up to summer pool, we then open the other ramp at Salmon Run and close the winter ramp there. And then the marina we use throughout the entire summer, and then we use it as the lake is dropping, and then once it gets too low, we'll close it, and then we'll open it as soon as it reaches that pool that it's able to be used. And then once again, we have 2 kayak ramp or launches, and one of them is at Battle Run, and the other one will be at Salmon Run.
So I can imagine that all of those stay fairly busy.
Yes,
once we're in
especially
season.
yes, during the summertime. I mean, we get to the point to where there's nowhere else for boaters to park. Like I said, at Battle Run, and then Salmon Run is always full, and the marina. I mean, anybody that's been down there during a busy week or weekend can see that the traffic's backed up all the way up to the main road. So that's something that in the future we're looking to try to mitigate and to try to help facilitate our recreation users and to mitigate on that crowding, I guess would be the word for it.
So it's really a good problem to have though, because I mean the lake is obviously driving people here, and that's a good thing.
Yes,
Big
we
boost
want
for the
people to
local
come.
economy.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Which brings me to my next question, which is approximately how many visitors are on the lake every year, and do you know, is that number just like a steady number? Is it inclining, declining?
So I would say on average, within the past couple years, we average about 750,000 visitors total between, campers, boaters, hikers, any of our recreation users that we have. I would say last year, it seemed like we increased just due to the needing to turn people around and everything like that. I definitely think that as a nation right now, we're kind of pushing more, get outside, get outdoors, be healthy. So I think that's kind of going to play into us getting busier. Like Cody mentioned earlier, our campground, on average, we're at a 92% occupancy rate, which means whenever our reservation season starts to when it ends, 92% of our campsites are booked. This year, it's at, I believe, a 95% rate already. And so it's one of those things where we're seeing more people get out, which is great. And we just ask that as more people come out, just respect the lake, pick up what you bring, and just really practice water safety. So.
And I did just read an article recently that's about travel, and I believe it said that at least 46% of travelers this year are going to want to come to smaller towns again and outdoor recreation. So I expect that Somersville Lake is going to be very busy again this year.
I would say that is a very valid statement. Yes.
Now, you talked a little bit earlier about the campground, and the Corps does manage one campground. So just a few details about that campground.
That'd be Battle Run Campground. There's 117 sites there.
So we have 110 sites that are electrical and 7 that are primitive.
That is correct, yes.
I would skip the primitive one, maybe consider the electrical one.
Yeah.
I'm not a camper, so. But I do know that Battle Run is extremely popular.
Yeah, it is. And like I said before, 95% occupancy rate. I mean, we're always full. We have we actually have to have assistance being able to manage that campground, and that's where our park attendant comes in. We have a contract that we do, and we release to the public, and we actually just renewed it this year. And so we're looking at getting a new park attendant and getting them settled in and just getting ready for the season.
Well, if you're going to do a staycation this year, and you're thinking about Battle Run Campground, I would advise you to get your reservations now,
Yes.
as soon as possible.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit. And over the past couple of years, the Corps, federal, state, and local government agencies, non-government agencies, and members of the general public worked on what was called a master plan. And a draft of this plan was released in December of 2020, and I believe it's now complete. So I want to talk about that master plan. So first of all, what is the master plan and what's its purpose?
So the master plan as a whole is just something that, the lake project itself looks at and the district looks at, and we see, what kind of what kind of land do we have here? What is it being used for? What can we use it for? Who's currently recreating there? Who can we possibly branch out to recreation-wise to get more recreationists here? And is the land being used effectively? So once that's all looked at, it's then drafted, as you mentioned, and then it's brought to the public, and we say, we see that this is what is important here at the lake, and this is kind of what we want to develop. This is what we want to do. And we released that to the public, and there was a time frame where they could reply back, and we went through all the comments. We read all the concerns. There was a couple things that we just didn't think about that was really, really good input that we actually ended up including in the master plan. And we appreciate those comments back and that feedback. And so once we take all of that, then we come up with a final plan, and it's basically kind of like a roadmap to let the public know this is what we see as important at the lake, this is what the local recreationists see as important, and this is kind of the stepping stones of where we're going to be going in the future.
And I mean, you just said, made a really valid point that there were some comments in there that you all didn't really think about that were good comments. And what that tells us is, just these partnerships of working with all of these agencies and the public, because when you put all of these people together to work on a project, you come out with, really good things, really good comments, really good suggestions that you can put into a plan. So it sounds like people really worked together on that, and you were able to take that information and really read what the people sent to you and put some of that to good use. So, I think it turned out to be a good thing that happened there. So from a recreational standpoint, can you just maybe give us some of the changes that might occur through this master plan?
So one of the big things that we already knew that rock climbers were a really big recreation user out here, but we got a lot of outreach from them about their concerns about having access to the Orange Oswald Trail and everything like that. So we really looked into that, and we're currently working with that property owner that owns that property to try to set a long-term goal. It's nothing set in stone, but we're definitely trying to cater to those users. Another thing is, we mentioned earlier, was the parking and how busy we are constantly. So one of the goals is to make a new parking area where the old overlook is before they put in the 2 lanes over there on Route 19. So that's one of the goals, to provide more parking and more access to those trails. And then another goal would be to, over in the Battle Run recreation area where we currently have the core boat, the goal was to put a big parking area in there, and then also put in a couple new boat ramps. And then once that's complete, and not before, we're then looking to possibly turn the parking lot over at the marina over to them. So that way we can kind of get more of our recreation users more to our side. So that way everybody's kind of flowing a little bit better, and to try to mitigate that congestion.
Those all sound like good things. Parking is always a problem with anywhere you go and anything you do. There's always issues with parking and never enough parking. But again, another good problem, because that just shows that people are coming to the lake, and now we have this master plan, and you have a plan to try to extend that parking to allow these people to continue to keep coming to
That is correct.
visit the lake. So those are good things that are going to come out of that. Also in the master plan, there's the mention of the day use fee. And I think that's been probably one of the most controversial issues that I've heard just as a citizen here from other people. So let's start with just exactly what is the day use fee?
So the fee is a charge that we do, so that way we can try to mitigate the cost of our operations and management of those areas. So since we're responsible for maintaining those areas, we have to maintain the restrooms, we have to maintain the picnic areas, we have to patrol the beach, we have to maintain the beach, we have to patrol the lake and stuff like that. So that is what the fee's for, is to try to offset those costs, is the main goal of the fees.
Okay, and what areas require the day use fee?
So the day use fee, that's something that we're kind of changing a little bit this year. In the past, since 1996, we've only charged anybody that was using our launch ramps $5 day use fee, and then also the beachgoers a day use fee. And so this year we're changing it to where anybody that enters the Battle Run recreation area, the Salmon Run recreation area, or uses the launch ramp at the marina will have to pay that day use fee.
Now, is that per car or per person?
So that is per car,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And how much is that? I mean, what is the fee?
So the fee it's $5 per car, and then another option that we have is you can pay $40 and get an annual pass. And so a lot of questions I've gotten is, if you have the annual pass, do you still have to stop at the fee machines? And the answer is no. So we are definitely trying to get people to buy the annual pass, because once you visit the lake so many times, I believe it's 8 times, right?
8 times.
8 times, then you've already paid for your annual pass. So you're better off just to get the annual pass. It'll keep the lines down, it'll keep the congestion down, and it'll be an overall better experience for all the recreation users trying to come in and out of there. So once you buy the $40 pass, you don't have to stop at the fee machine anymore.
So how do you is there someone that checks your pass when you come in, or?
No, so what it'll be is, if you pull into the recreation area and you don't have an annual pass, then you would pull over to the fee machine, and they take credit card and debit card. And so you would pay your fee there, and it'll print off a ticket, and the ticket explains, it's not a ticket, it's a receipt basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll state what time you paid, when it expires, and to place up on the dash. So that way, the way that we regulate to ensure that people are paying their fees is the rangers will go out and we'll check every once in a while just to make sure that everybody's paying their fees like they're supposed to.
Okay. And also the America the Beautiful Pass. If you have one of those, does that do you still have to pay the day use fee?
No. So if you have an America the Beautiful pass, then that also counts as your day use fee. So it's just like an annual pass. So you would just hang it from your rear view mirrors to where the staff can see it, and then you're good to go. So you don't even got to stop at the fee machines.
Okay. And just to note, the America the Beautiful Pass is a federal park pass that's good in all federal locations.
That is correct, yeah. So any of the national parks, and also the $40 annual pass, it's usable at any of the core lakes. It's not just at Somersville Lake. So especially if you travel a lot and you go to Burnsville and Sutton or any of the other core lakes, it's definitely a good investment to have.
Oh, absolutely. But we don't want you to, we want you to stay in Somersville, obviously.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But if you do travel out, you will be able to use your pass. Now, another question that people have had is, if you go to multiple locations in a day's time, do you have to buy a pass at each one of those locations?
No, as long as you make sure to keep that receipt, and you can travel from one area to the other, and you don't have to pay it multiple times.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about the machines. So are those already installed now? Or?
Yeah, so the machines are installed. They're fully operational, but we don't have them turned on yet. So we're going to start utilizing those on Monday. And so that's when we're going to start checking for fees, making sure people are paying and everything like that. And then since those take only credit or debit card, at the lake office in the past we've accepted cash and check. we are also going to be transitioning on Monday to credit or debit card only at the lake office as well to buy passes.
Okay, so there'll be no cash, just all credit or debit card.
Correct. And then our recommendation is if you don't have a credit or debit card, they do have prepaid cards that you can buy at a gas station or at, a local convenience store. And that is our biggest recommendation on that.
Okay. Well, we have definitely become more and more of a cashless society, so.
Yeah, and that's been a
that'll
big
work.
request from a lot of the users. They'll come into the office and they'll be like, well, I don't have a cash or check. We only have cards. So we're trying to transition in with the times, I guess would be a good way to put it.
Now, you did mention earlier that this day use fee actually started back in 1996, so it's really not a new thing, it's just something that's been extended to some other areas.
That is correct, yeah, and like I said, it used to just be for anybody using the boat launch ramp or that was using the beach, but those funds go, like I said previously, to the entire recreation area. So we're trying to evenly distribute that burden, on, it's not just their responsibility, it's, if you're coming in and you park down there, it's understood that you're probably going to use the restroom, or you're probably going to, want to sit in the grass or utilize a picnic area. And so those funds also help with, we have a cleaning contract, so it helps pay the cleaners. It helps pay our maintenance contract, which does our mowing and stuff like that. So not only is it upkeeping the recreation areas, just the facilities, but it's also helped pay for the cleanliness of the area as well.
Well, and it's kept up very well. Y'all do a
Thank
really
you.
good job with that. So, now the day use fee has also been controversial when people talk about Salmon Run because it's such a popular place for people to walk.
It is.
And
Yes.
everybody's like, do I have to pay $5 to go walk? So do they have to pay $5 to walk?
So to walk, no. So there is a location that is up at the beginning of Salmon Run, and it's an okay sized parking lot. And if they park there and they walk from there, they do not have to pay. But if the understanding is if you drive into the recreation area and you park, then you do need to pay that day use fee. So if you're planning on hiking our trails or walking and you're going to park down in the main recreation area, then yes, you will need to pay that fee. Yes.
Okay. That's good to know. So the last item I want to address briefly is just events on Somersville Lake. So can you explain the event process if someone wanted to host an event?
Yes, ma'am. It's we have a special event permit, and that's something that we issue out. We have an application process, and so if you're wanting to hold an event at Somersville, we would send you an application, you would fill it out, submit it to us with a $75 processing fee. Once we receive that, we'll review it and approve it, usually approve it. One of our big things is that we try to avoid having special events during our peak recreation season. So Memorial Day to Labor Day, we try not to schedule big events, and that's for a big safety thing because of how busy the lake gets. But with those types of events, they range all over. We have a sailboat regatta that we do in the fall. We have paddleboard races. We have 5Ks. We have somebody who's wanting to do a marathon next year. So there's not necessarily a limit to what you can do. It's just a matter of how you go about it, making sure that you go through our application process. You don't want to just show up at the lake with 100 people because you're probably going to end up talking to a ranger. So.
Well, it's like anything else. I mean, you have to go through that process to do it. And as you said, in the summer months, the lake is probably at capacity. So to bring in an event when the lake's already at capacity would probably be near impossible.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's
Yes.
another reason we kind of have that guideline of between Memorial Day and Labor Day, we try not to do anything just because the odds of actually being able to host that event is very unlikely just because there's just no room.
People are vacationing.
Yep.
People don't want to have their vacations messed with, especially after the last 14 months when they've been in the house
Yes.
the whole time. So. Okay, well, we've had a lot of wonderful, good information today. But before we conclude, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
We just want to make sure that we express how important water safety is while you're out there on the lake. Make sure that you're wearing a life jacket. Make sure your children are wearing life jackets. Make sure that, like Cody mentioned earlier, you're not cliff jumping. And we're not out there, we don't want to issue citations. We're out there to make sure that the public's being safe. And as he mentioned, we've had some fatalities. We had a couple life flights last year, and that's from people jumping off of those cliffs. So just be mindful, be respectful of the lake. We love our jobs, we love the lake, so just please give it the same respect we do. That's all we ask.
Wear your life jacket.
Wear your life jacket, okay. Well, the Corps of Engineers at Summersville Lake, as you can see, plays a significant role and does very many jobs. So I want to say thank you to Tony and Cody for being here today and sharing all of this very valuable information. I'd also like to say thank you to Toby Wood, who's the park manager, and all his team for all that they do with flood prevention, land management, recreation, public safety, and there's many more jobs as we've talked about today. They're responsible for all of those things, and they do a wonderful job. So many thanks to all of them for all that they do.